Okay, is it working this time? I don't know, does anyone have this link? Okay, it's better now? Like the sound is not echoing? Okay, it's better now? Like the sound is not echoing? Okay, it's better now? Okay, perfect. Thank God. Okay, this is terrible. Yeah, I've never done a live. I think Twitch is better. Like I was trying Twitch. Okay, the echo is back again. Oh crap. Should I just do it silently? Should I try it again? The echo is back. Let's try it a third time. See if it works. Oh, great. Is it okay? Is it not okay? Should I continue? We getting an echo? I think it's an internet connection problem. Like this is, my connection is too slow, so it's buffering. Hello. It's good? Oh, okay, cool. So fine, we're continuing. Thank God. This was a nightmare. I'm going to try Twitch next time. I think Twitch is simpler. Like YouTube just gives me nightmares. Like I have no idea what is going on, and I think my screen is too small, so I have a 1080p monitor. So I don't think I can fit everything in there. Okay, but here we are, so we're good. No, I mean, well, just another platform. Who cares? You can come to Twitch. Oh, hello, Tarun. Okay, where do we start? So does anyone know Renderman or like no clue about Renderman? Yes, no. I'm sort of waiting for an answer. Oh, okay. So some people know Renderman. Well, I don't know Renderman. This is the first time I'm using it. Like I tried using it before. I don't work for any company. I make training videos and I sell training videos. That's what I do. Like, that's a good business. So, I basically, like, to put it very simply, I sit in my bedroom and I make videos. Which sounds very wrong, but that's basically what I do. Okay, hold on a second. I might, damn it, like, because this stream got screwed up, I am going to have to modify my web page. So, if everybody has if everyone has like 5 minutes, just give me 5 minutes, because I think I need to like repair the link on my website. So just enjoy the stream till then. Give me 2 minutes. I knew something was going to go wrong. Nope, one monitor. I'm a really poor guy. Like I have 2 GPUs, but I only have one HD monitor. So, okay, hold on a second. I need to do this. I can't go off screen either because this is the only way it works. So yeah, there you go. This is my website. and I need to come in here and adjust this. So just give me a second. I need to, because this is the link I put up on, yeah. Yeah, that's the link I put up accidentally on, or not accidentally. That's the link I put up on my this thing. Yeah, I will eventually do that. Hopefully once the stream is over, YouTube automatically records stuff. So yeah, so once the stream is over, I will upload it to YouTube properly. Okay, so let's get started. I think, yeah, I've wasted enough time doing other stuff, but let's get started. So where are we? So let's talk about installing Renderman. Okay, so installing Renderman is, for Houdini, is, well, relatively simpler. Oh, hello. Okay, so firstly you'll need to get the installer from, pixar.renderman.com. And what you also need to do is you will need to register on the forum, because when you first run the installer, it's going to ask you to log in, and that login is your Renderman forum, login and password. So once you've done that and installed it, then comes the tricky bit, which is you need to come in to the Houdini environment file, which is what you have to do, to make anything work in Houdini. And okay, let me finish this and then I'll talk about XPU. Okay, so essentially, let me just show you the environment file. Where's the environment file? Yeah, so, God, I hate the environment file. I mean, it makes me feel like I'm in the 1980s. Like I have to make these whole bunch of edits and everything. Yeah, okay, so what needs to be done is, this is, okay, that's for Linux. Yeah, this is for Windows. So this is what you need to type in. Okay, so if you install to C drive, you won't have to change anything. You can just directly type this in and it should work. Luckily, if you just have like one plugin installed, you'll be fine. If you are a crazy person like me and I have 5 render engines installed, then your environment file usually ends up looking something like that. That's my environment file. This is a nightmare. Okay, and then you get like weird clashes. So I ended up installing the Houdini game tools and Arnold stopped working. Then I installed Redshift and the Renderman object parameters disappeared. So it's just weird. Like, why can't we just install a plugin and have it work? Like, why do I need to do this? Like I feel like I'm like some extra in a hacking movie, and like I'm just like typing gibberish somewhere in the background. Like I hacked the Pentagon or something. And then this last bit of nonsense here, this is pretty much everything for V-Ray. Okay, so it's just like, yeah, that's because just typing this is not enough. So you need to type all of this if you want to get V-Ray. Anyways, so once you've done that, like right now I have it fairly simple because I just have Octane. So this is the path for Octane. And then that's what you need to type for V-Ray. Sorry, that's what you need to type for Renderman, like this much. So these 2 lines and then Houdini path and that. And that's what you need to type for, for Renderman to work. And then hopefully if you've done everything right, no, game tools are not integrated. You have to download them. Like you have to come into something like you have to come into shelves and go to game development toolset, and then it'll ask you to install it. That's basically how it works. Jacob, this is my problem, right? I just like, why can't I just install a plugin, right? Like, I don't want to do environment files. I don't want to do scripts. I am, I am not stuck in the 1980s. Just double click, install, enter a serial number, done. Like, it does not need to be this. This is a nightmare to make. And then half the things don't work properly. And then it just like, I have no idea what's going on. Anyways, that's enough complaining for today. Okay, so once you've done that, now first let's talk about XPU, because this is not XPU, right? So XPU is, by my calculation, about is scripting necessary to learn Houdini? Kind of. You need to have a decent understanding of math, not very complicated math, but should be comfortable with it. And no, you don't. Like, I can, yeah, just a little bit. Like, I don't know coding at all. I just like, I know few lines in Vex, that's mostly it. So you don't really need to. Okay. Okay, let's, what are we talking about? Okay, XPU. So XPU, by my calculation, is at least a year away. I would probably say early 2021, like not before that. So if you want, there are a couple of videos. So there's one here which is called Introducing Pixar Renderman XPU. What I like about, no, this one is old. Yeah, this one is very old. Hold on. Where is it? Yeah, this one. The Future of Production Rendering from Pixar. So this one is interesting. They talk a lot about Renderman XPU. One of the things they did demonstrate, and mostly what they're talking about, is how to compress as much geometry and texture data into a graphics card, because naturally that's an issue. And this is a phenomenal scene what they showed. So this is something like the last result, they were at like about, that's 280 GB of textures, and they managed to compress it down to like 500 MB, which is like really impressive, because when they do a close-up, you can see how much resolution is there. So like that's essentially the resolution of the image that you're finally seeing. So what is impressive is what they're trying to do is they're trying to make for some reason, yeah, okay. So they're trying to make a proper production level GPU renderer, in the sense of throwing as much geometry as they can at it. And this is another video which they did at NVIDIA. So this is a crazy scene, right? So this is 32 million 32 million particles grain simulation. And what you're seeing is like the whole scene, right? So this is not just the particles, this is the entire scene. And I think this is about 15 GB of data. So this is the whole scene from Incredibles, with all the vehicles and the characters and everything, and motion blur and whatnot. So it's kind of crazy. So it's pretty impressive to see, like when they showed the Arnold GPU videos, they never showed anything of this scale. Like, this is impressive. But like towards the end of this, they essentially talk about the release time. Yeah, so this is the release. So I think this year they'll have like something for the large studios, and then they'll do an open beta for, other people, and then commercial launch is late 2020. I would probably say 2021, like early 2021 is when they're going to do it. So till then, it's not coming in anytime soon. Okay, so as if Sam, if you're asking me, I teach, so I just teach everything I get my hands on within Houdini. So it's not really a question of is it slow or fast. I just teach stuff. Okay, so let's get started, right? So this is as far as whatever is concerned about XPU. Let's talk about, okay, so what I need to do is, this is the lesson plan for today, and I am hoping I should be able to cover all of this. I'm going to do this for an hour, and after that I'm going to get bored. So if I can cover all of this in an hour, that's great. Otherwise, we'll try and cover as much as we can, and I'll do another stream the next time around. See, the point is, everything is going to go GPU eventually, right? Like Arnold is already going GPU, V-Ray is kind of GPU, and Renderman is also going GPUs. I'll probably say by the end of next year, Arnold will be much better developed. Right now, it's kind of terrible, but it will develop. Like they will eventually get it up to speed. So yeah, eventually everything will go there, and yeah, then there's no point like worrying about, oh, is this slow or is this fast? Okay, so we've done installation and stuff. So we'll start off with the absolute basics. So I have a simple scene here, and then I will start adding more stuff to it. Okay, so I have like a box and this little guy here and a sphere, and I have this base. And no lights or nothing at all right now. So the first thing we'll do is, if you click the shelf icon, you can add the Renderman 22 tab in there. Okay, don't add Renderman RIS. That's the old stuff. Renderman 22 overrides it anyways. So just get Renderman 22. Okay, and we'll start off by adding a simple dome light. So you can add that from the tool set, like from the shelf, or you can just press tab and type PXR, and it'll give you all the stuff, and you'll find Pixar dome light. Okay, so once you've added the dome light, let's also create a material network, and we'll take a few materials. So you can just type in surface, and you'll get something called Pixar surface. Or if you want to build a shader network, then you type builder, and you'll get Pixar material builder, and then you can go in there and you can type surface. So the same thing, like you'll get a surface here. So you can build, like when you want to build a complex network, you do it in there. When you just want like a simple shader, then we can do it out here. Okay, so I want about 4 materials. So I'm going to call this base, and we'll do, let me close this. The one thing I do like about this is that it's very colorful. Okay, like if you look at the standard shader that we get, the principal shader, this is nice, but the problem is the colors are too similar. So it's like this is like a dark green and this is a bluish green, and it's kind of confusing. What I like about this is that it's very sort of, like, okay, that's pink and this is green. So it's very easy to differentiate. Okay, so let me just close that, and we'll do Control C, Control V, and yeah. Okay, so I have, how many do I have? Okay, so I have 4. So what I need is, I need a base, I need the model, and I want one to be red and one of them to be blue. The problem is it doesn't show up in the viewport. Okay, so if you make changes, it's not going to show up. Like the diffuse color does not show up in the viewport. That's an issue. Okay, so let's keep this to red. That's not red, but okay. And okay, so this is blue and that's red. Can anybody hear me, because this conversation is going off in a different direction? So just like once in a while, just nod and tell me that you can actually hear what's going on. Okay, so once you have done this much, the rest is fairly simple. Now you don't need to create a ROPNet because Renderman will do it for you. Okay, perfect, good. Yeah, because this is sort of like the chat is going off in a different direction, so I'm just kind of confused if anyone can hear me. Okay. Okay, so what you want to do is just click the IPR button. So when you click the IPR button, it will automatically create the ROP network for you. So you don't need to do anything there. The reason why you need to let the IPR create the ROP network is because if you create one on your own, the IPR doesn't know where to find it. It's just going to make one again. So if you create like a ROP output folder and you make something in there, it doesn't recognize that. It just goes in a different direction. So it just makes one on its own. So it's all very confusing. Okay, so then I realized, okay, let just Renderman do what it wants to do. Okay, so click IPR and this will open up. Yeah, so there you go. It's pretty fast. What's the price of Renderman? Renderman is free for non-commercial. Otherwise, I think it's $400 or $500. You get all the plugins. But I think there are only two. Like there's Maya and there is Houdini and there's Katana. I think there's a Blender plugin. I'm not sure how developed it is. Okay, so this is essentially what happens then. Okay, like it will start rendering. Now the first thing I am going to do is let's just stop this, and the first thing that will happen is it will generate two nodes. Okay, in the shop global folder you will find something called RIS, and within that it creates this node called a path tracer. So it's kind of broken up into two things, right? The first part is the path tracer, which is essentially what they call as the integrator. That's the render engine. And then in the out folder, it has the renderer where it pulls in this integrator. See, so the Pixar path tracer is here. And then you don't really need to do too much. You just have the minimum maximum samples that you need to worry about. So it's pretty straightforward. So what I can, you don't really need to do too much here. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to limit the number of threads, because if I let it use all 32 threads that I have, the PC starts getting slow, right? So what you can do is come to the render tab and limits, and way down here you'll find something called threads. Okay, so just I'll get it up to 10 threads. I have a Threadripper 3216 core. So technically what I'm using right now is 5 cores. Okay, that's basically it. Okay, now let's start to render again. So hit IPR again and it should start rendering. So it will be a little slower, but that's fine. Is Mac still around? God, I thought that place was dead. Okay. Anyways, now the first thing you want to do. Okay, now let me, because the problem is, even though this is by default, there is global illumination going on, you're not seeing too much of color bleed. Okay, and before we get to that, this is also fully interactive. So if I by interactive I essentially mean like not just moving objects around. Okay, like that works. But if I come into the object and I make any changes, like if I take a mountain sop, and then if we connect a mountain sop, so there you go. Okay, and then if you decide to do something like at time, and then if you play this, see, there you go. So yeah, it's fairly interactive. Yeah, I don't need to do that, but there you go. Okay, so it is like you can actually model while this is going on. It won't be an issue. All right, so where were we? Okay, now, as I said, the big issue right now is that you are getting some color bleed, but it's not really too much. And if you come into the shopnet and you come to the path tracer, you'll see that you currently have 10 bounces. So like this is one bounce where you're not getting any global illumination at all. And even if I go up to like 11, I'm not really getting any color bleed. So the first thing you want to do is not use the path tracer. So Pixar has developed a better integrator, which is still sort of like in beta. So they're not making it standard, but that's the one you should use most of the time. Okay, so just press tab and type in unified. And so unified will give you a different node, and come back to the out folder and pick that up over here. So Pixar unified. And okay, sorry, let me just do a comparison of that. Okay, let me come to window and open up catalog. Okay, I'll let this render through, or let's just stop this. Okay, and if we pick up the path tracer and I hit IPR again, so you can see the difference. You can see like this, this one is a lot brighter, this is a lot darker. Like it picks up, like you can see on the ground itself, like the ground is in the unified, it is actually pink, and in this one it's not. Okay. Another thing you can do is you can actually run a comparison, like you can compare between two images. So what you do is you can take this icon here called the wipe tool, and you pick one image, set that as the background, and then you pick your final image, and then you can just sort of wipe between these. See, there you go. You can see the difference. It's pretty apparent, like what you can do with it. Okay. So the first and foremost rule is don't use the path tracer. Use the unified one. Okay. I have no idea, man. Use whatever you feel like, but Renderman is like I don't know Renderman well enough to give you an answer. Like if Renderman is better or not. Okay. Maybe at the end of this hour you can kind of make up your mind. Okay, so just come back here and change that to unified. Yeah, and let it render again. Okay. Now, if you want to do a region render in here, you need to do two things. Like come to image and click auto crop render, and then this button here, this is for your region render. So you can just draw a region and it will start doing a region render. Okay, so relatively straightforward. You can just you can't move it around, you have to sort of readjust the size like that. Yeah, and then if you don't want it, you can close it from here. So it sort of, goes back to doing that. Okay, so let's talk about the, I can get rid of this now. So let's talk about the unified tracer. Now, I'm not going to go into everything, but I'll just talk about the things that can help you make the render faster or, make it a little cleaner. So the basic stuff is fairly simple. You have your bounces, which is called max path length. So this is 0, that means you don't have any global illumination at all. This is actually unified. So it's not just for diffuse bounces. When you have reflections and transparent objects, this will affect all of it. Okay, so it's all three combined into one. Okay, so you can keep this high, and then this is interesting. This is called the max ray distance, which is by default at 1,000 units or whatever. But what you can do is if your scene is relatively smaller, you can actually bring this down. Okay. So what happens if you bring it completely down is that the rays stop affecting after a certain distance. See, now you can see the rays just don't reach till a certain level. It cleans a lot faster, but it's kind of useless. It's sort of like an ambient occlusion distance. Okay, but affecting everything in general. When I start using an HDR, you'll see the difference. But usually what I've noticed is get it to a point where you see your scene getting affected and then stop there. I can get it to, but the lower you get, the faster it goes. So yeah, I think around 0.6 is fine enough for this. Okay, then you get other things. So, okay, here's a weird bit of this, right? Every time you change a tab in here, it restarts the render. It's very weird. Like, I don't know why it does that. It used to do that in other renderers also, and then they kind of repaired it. Like Arnold used to do that once. But yeah, so every time you change a tab, the IPR is going to kickstart again. Alright, now the one thing you want to control is the clamping. Okay, so the clamping is really interesting because if the values are too high, you tend to get fireflies, right? Like you tend to get overly bright spots. So what you can do is, like, if your scene does not have anything transparent, you can get the caustics to 0. Like it doesn't need to worry about it. Because the problem is it's a path tracer. It's going to calculate all the rays, regardless of whatever is in the scene. So when you don't have anything specific like that, just get rid of it. Okay. You can reduce the max indirect values. See. So again, like just keep it to the point where it's having an effect. Don't go too high. Okay. Like it's an unnecessarily calculating stuff, causes more noise. And then you can get the max direct value. This is for direct lights. So now what you're seeing is just the indirect light. Okay, so again, like keep it to a point where it's okay. But yeah, these values, you kind of have to change based on your render. Like there's no fixed value here. You just kind of go with whatever works. Okay, hold on. Yeah, all right, where were we? Yeah, one thing just to show you, you get a Pixar material palette now, which is somewhere here. Hold on. Yeah, Renderman preset browser. Yeah, there you go. So this is something you get now with Renderman, where it's like you get, is anybody still there? I could just be talking to myself. Is this working? Okay, cool. Yeah, just say something every now and then, because otherwise I just think like the connection is dropped and I'm just sitting like an idiot talking to myself. Oh, hello. Oh, cool. Okay, that's good, like concentrate. Alright, so where were we? This is not important, like you get a preset material palette, fine. Okay, okay, now let's take an HDR, because that will be more interesting. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of the box and the sphere, and we're just going to deal with this. And what you can do is, we'll come to the dome light. Now, Renderman is a little weird, but once you get used to it, it's not like too complicated. The price is, I think, about $500, but it's free for non-commercial. So if you just want to learn it, you can just download it and start using it. Okay, so yeah, so let's come into the dome light, and you have the color map option where you can pick up the HDR that you want. So what Renderman does now is, when you pick up an HDR, like a standard HDR, it will do an auto conversion to a .tex. I think 500 forever. It's not a rental model. Okay. There might be a maintenance price, but annual maintenance thing, but I think it's 500 forever. Okay, so when you pick up like an HDR and hit accept, what it does is, like if I go back there again, you should have, hold on, okay, I think we'll have to hit render. So let's hit IPR. So what it does is it auto converts the, yeah, see, there you go, that kicked in. So it auto converts that into a .tex, and if you come back here, you'll find the .tex. The .tex is, no, like you don't want to see the buckets. I don't think you can. If you go into the standard IPR, like if you come in here, then you won't see the buckets, right? Like if you come into the render view and you hit IPR here, you won't see the buckets. But the problem with that is, you can't make out when it's going to end, right? Like, because you don't see the buckets at all, it just keeps going on. That is a huge issue for me. I still haven't figured out how to see the render time in Houdini, in Renderman. Like, I have no idea where that is. So if anybody knows, just let me know. Okay. Yeah, it sort of automatically takes it, but I'm not sure. Like, you saw it picked it up automatically, right? Like, no, like before I changed it, it did kick off the render. But what I did was I just separated all the .tx files, and now I just use the .tex file. The one thing you should remember, the .tx is a pretty huge format. Like, usually it's about 4 times, like 4 or at least double. So this is about 2.9 MB and the .tx is about 5 MB. So it's double the size. So it's pretty huge. Okay, let me just pick up something so I can show you something interesting. Yeah, so this is one of the images that I have. Let's hit IPR. Okay, and let me just spin this around so I get it here. Okay, now comes the interesting stuff, which is firstly we might have to readjust. We're going to spend some time in the integrator now. So we might have to readjust our ray distance because it might be too small. And you might want to, like, if these values are too small, like, you don't get enough light. So which is very apparent if you do this, right? Like, let's say if I come down really low to like 0.7, and then if I come to the dome light again, I'm going to increase the gamma. So I'm going to take the gamma to 2.2. So what happens is, like, the contrast increases, then you have to increase the intensity to match the contrast. So usually I take it up there. But now the reason why you're not getting enough light is because our direct light value over here is too low. Okay, so if you start to increase this, there you go. So depending upon your scene, you might have to readjust this. Okay, I'm going to do a region render so it sort of goes a little quicker. So if this value is too low, it actually like eats up the light altogether. So you kind of have to figure out, what you want or what you don't want. Okay, let's also do one thing. I want to get a better object in here. So let me just come into my model and I'm going to switch it to 1. Give it a second because it's a slightly heavy model. Maybe a few seconds. Oh crap. Okay, Houdini crashed. I was not expecting that. Damn it, I'm going to have to set up everything again. Okay, hold on a second. I'm just going to do this again. Okay. Yeah, it couldn't just do that. It had to just crash on me. Okay, let me just get rid of these two guys and okay, so give me 2 seconds and we'll set this up again. So I'm going to take the dome light. We will pick up the HDR. Yeah, set this to 2.2. The HDR it shows in the viewport, like, which is pretty nice. Okay, and yeah, I can get rid of this. Let's hit. Yeah, hold on. I'll just create 2 materials now because yeah, first one and second one. Okay. Let's just call this model. Okay, I'm going to save this file. Hopefully, nothing too complicated happens. Yeah, okay. It kicks off pretty fast. Like sometimes it's pretty impressive how fast it can, pick things up. Let me just take this, make it brighter. We'll need to go in and change the IPR again. Sorry, change the integrator again. Yeah. The problem with the path tracer is that you really don't have enough controls in there. So you can see like how grainy it gets. It's very difficult to control it. So we'll just take the unified again. And then go to out and pick up unified. Okay, let me just adjust the dome light again. So, yeah, and one more thing. If you make any changes to the ROP node, then you have to stop and restart the network. Sorry, restart the render. It doesn't automatically update. Like that's an issue. Renderman has its own lights. It doesn't do, like I think it supports, but most renderers have their own lights. To expect like, one render engine stuff to work in another is like, it never does. It'll cause issues. Like there are always like compatibility problems, so not a good idea. Okay, so let me just adjust this once. Yeah, we're going to take, see again, you can see how much light it sort of eats up. Let me make the light brighter. Okay, now let's hit. Yeah, and let's also come in here. I want to make this brighter. Okay. Okay, so now if you can see this, if I start to increase it, you can see like it actually has more light. So the thing with the max direct lighting value is you have to figure out how much, like you have to sort of play around with it and see how much light you're actually eating up. But now comes the interesting stuff. Okay, these two guys, right? The light samples especially. This was a bit of a surprise. Like I didn't know what exactly it did. And it only works in very specific scenarios. Like light samples doesn't work all the time. Okay, but with HDRs it really works. So just to sort of do a comparison, I'm going to get the light samples to 7 and then let's hit IPR. And you can see how much better the light is. That's what happens. So somehow the light samples, if you increase it, when you have an HDR like this, it kind of really improves the light quality. Okay, so when you're doing high contrast HDRs and stuff like that, you should play around with the light samples. It will make a lot of difference. Now another thing is the BXDF samples are primarily for like speculars and reflection refraction stuff. So let's do one thing. Let's come into our material network and I am going to make a metal shader. Okay, I'm not going into materials this time. Okay, because like this is a pretty huge material system and I want to cover other things. So we won't go into materials this time. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the diffuse and make it black. And then if you come to specular, you get like 4 levels of specular. Sorry, no, 3 levels. Okay. what you can do is it has two modes. It has artistic and physical. If you keep to physical, it goes to like 1.5 and then you just increase the edge color and you'll get, you know, a specular model. Or if you come to artistic, then you can define an edge color. Okay, and let's make that reddish. And then you can define a face color. So you can do that. So it's a little odd, but it works. And let me just zoom out a bit. If we come back to unified, we might also end up seeing some issues happening with the ray distance. Okay, so if I increase the ray distance, see, this is what's happening with the ray distance now. Like if I make it too low, it stops reflecting after a certain limit. So you kind of have to decide, like, you know, how much is it reflecting. The point with all of this is the reason why you want to control this stuff is because you can control how much grain it's going to generate. Okay, so if you're just giving it just enough values to work with and not go over the top, you can control your noise amount a lot better. Okay, and again, like if I look at BXDF and increase that, you'll see it gets brighter. See, like at 0, it's really dark. And then if I take it up to 7, see, the BXDF makes it brighter. Okay. So that's the same. So the indirect samples don't seem to do too much. Or do they? Hold on a second. Yeah, between 1 and, yeah, not a lot. But the light and the BXDF make a fair bit of difference. Now, another thing is we removed the caustics altogether, so we can bring that back. So if I get the caustics value higher, you'll start seeing caustics. It's a full-blown like path tracer, so it kind of does all of this stuff automatically. Unless you want to do like caustics for glass and then you need to turn on a few things, but otherwise you can just work with this. But yeah, like if you feel the render is getting too grainy, just get rid of it. It will render faster. Okay, or just keep like just a little bit. So, you know, you'll get some amount of caustics, but it won't take too long to clean up. Because if you keep it too high and it's very bright, it'll take longer to clean. And it all depends whether the scene requires caustics. Is it going to be noticed? Is it not going to be noticed? You know, that kind of stuff. Okay, it's time somebody typed something there again. Just randomly keep typing something. Give me 1 second. Let this, hold on, let me close that and let this render through. Okay, so oh, cool. Okay, somebody said wow. Okay. But yeah, there you go. So this is what happens with caustics. Okay. I can sort of close this. Let me see if, yeah, no, that doesn't matter. Overall, it's a nice render engine. It's a little complicated. In what case? Like you want to add subsurface scattering to this? You could, but not for this. Like I'm not going to go into subsurface scatter. That's like a whole different, I'll do another video for subsurface scatter. Not right now. But in this, I don't think so you need to. Okay, so this is as far as HDR is concerned. I wanted to cover this because I realized like HDRs were behaving a little weird. And I needed to figure out like what was going on and what wasn't happening. So yeah, that was kind of important to take care of. Okay, let's stop this and I'll discard this. Let me save the file because I'm hoping it doesn't crash again. So let's move on to some other model. I got like 3 models. There's a website called 3D Scan. Like, hold on, let me just. 3D scans, like that's the website. You can go there and you can get models. Okay. So let me just switch again. Please don't crash. At least I've saved the file this time. Ah, there you go. Okay. So let me just zoom out. Okay, so just to show you what we were working with, this is about this is about 1 million polygons. This little guy here is about 2.5. And let's set IPR. So the nice thing is it handles geometry quite well. Like it kicks off pretty quickly. Okay. And if I want to take this guy and just rotate it. I like the model, that's why I kept it. Okay. Let me just come into the camera and let's do wider. So let's do 700 by 650 and zoom out a bit. Yeah, I think I'll have to stop this. And let's hit IPR again. Okay, we've done enough with HDRs. I don't want to use HDRs anymore. So let me just get rid of that. Yeah, okay, get this to 0, get this to 1. What I want to do is I just want to talk about basic lights. Okay, so that's what we're going to stop on, which is basic light settings. Okay, so I'm just going to come back here, get rid of this, go back to something standard. So just bring this up. Yeah, okay. One of the things I do like about Renderman is it gives a very nice look. Like, I think of render engines as cameras. So it's like you have a Sony camera which has a ton of features, but sometimes the look of the photographs is not the best. But you can always go into Lightroom and make it better. And then you have something like Canon, which sort of which doesn't have as many features as a Sony camera, but it gives you, like really good looking images right out of the camera. So it's kind of like that. But I like the look of what I get with Renderman. Like whatever color science is there, it's pretty solid. Okay, so let me just take the dome light. I'm going to make it darker, maybe slightly bluish. Okay. And we'll add an area light. Okay, so I'm just going to come in here and you'll find something called rectangle light. So you can just add a rectangle light. Press T and we'll move it out and take it up there. The one nice thing is the interactivity is extremely good now. Like at no point do you have to worry about, like should I stop this, start this? It pretty much runs through everything, which is a good thing. Okay, so talking about light settings. So let me just take the rectangle light. So the first thing is you can directly, like this is something you couldn't do in Renderman 21. You can do it now, is you couldn't scale up your light size. You can do that now. Okay, I think I'm going to get the dome light even lesser. Okay, so you can come into the light, we can adjust intensity. And you can adjust the color to whatever you want. What you can also do is you can also mix the color with temperature. So if I adjust this, you'll get like, you can go warmer or, bluer, and you can also at the same time adjust a color. So you can do both the things. So which is something I liked, like the fact that you could do both the things at the same time. Now, another thing you can do, which is actually pretty nice, is if you come into the refine area, you can focus the emission to a certain part, which you can do with, like, you can do that with V-Ray as well. But this is something I like, which is you can actually tint the emission focus. So now you have like two separate colors, which is something I liked. And you can also define the cone angle, so you can make it smaller if you want to. And you can make the cone softer. So let's enable temperature also, and we can get it slightly brighter. Yeah, so you get a fair bit of control on the light. Okay, if you come into, you can get an IES light if you want to. If you come into advanced, then you have options here, which is essentially, if you want to do glass and you want caustics, then you turn on trace light path, but otherwise you don't need to. Okay, now let me just make it slightly warmer still. Yeah, okay, I like that. Okay, let's just go back to the shopnet and okay, now with something like this, the light samples don't do anything. They'll just slow down the render and you won't see any difference. Okay, so if you just come in here, yeah, so like if you see it at 1, it'll be the same. Okay. Like let this render through. Like I'll keep both of them at 1. You can see how fast it goes. Okay. Right, and if I stop this and if I hit IPR again and let's do another region render. And if I get this up to like 7 and 7, there's barely any difference. It'll actually go slower, but it won't make a difference. So the light sample stuff, from whatever I realized, is only useful when you're doing like HDR, and it also has an effect when you're doing subsurface scatter. So when we do subsurface scatter, I'll talk about it then. But right now, it doesn't make any difference. So just let it render through. It'll actually go a lot faster. And then we can adjust these guys again, like we don't want caustic, so get rid of that. We can lower the direct lighting value. This is the same thing that I do with Octane as well, where it's like you control the amount of light coming to the point where visually it stops making a difference. Like there's no point keeping 10,000 bounces if you can't visually make a difference over 10. Like you're just going to generate too much noise and you're not going to see any difference. So yeah, don't do it. The ray distance, I think we might need to increase. No, that's fine too. If the ray distance is too low, you'll start seeing a difference. See, there you go. Like it starts eating up the shadows. See, like your shadows are gone. So you want to keep it again to a point where you see a difference, but then not beyond that. And yeah, 8 bounces is too much. 2 is good enough. Okay, so before we end this, because I think we're almost up on the hour, CPU, Renderman is not GPU. I'm rendering on, okay, so if I haven't been clear, I'm rendering on Threadripper 1950X, which has 16 cores, but currently I'm using only 5. So this is with 5 cores only. Because if I decide to use all 16, the machine gets too slow. So I decided, okay, like it's a demo, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so before we end this, let's talk about denoising. Okay, because it's the same. Like if you use the optics denoiser, Renderman has the optics denoiser. So what you can do is, it's fairly simple. Just come into the out to the render and images, and there's something called denoise. Just turn that on. Now the issue is that it sometimes doesn't show up in IPR, so you have to hit a render from here, like this button. But we'll try it with the IPR and see if it works. Renderman is coming to GPU late next year. They might do an open beta next year, but I don't know if it will be available for Houdini. Like Houdini, the Houdini plugin is something that they develop in the end. They don't develop, like the Maya plugin comes up first. So if you are a Maya user, you'll probably get a beta of Renderman XPU sometime early next year, and then if everything works out fine, they'll do something sometime end of next year. I'd probably say SIGGRAPH next year you might see something. Okay, so press N, and if everything is working fine, it will give you the denoise, but it's not. So the IPR is not giving you denoise, which is fine. So what you do is you have to hit render here. There you go, denoise. Okay. So this is the optics denoiser, which essentially makes your image look like watercolors. But what it does is it's a progressive renderer. So as time passes, you'll get a better result. Let's do one thing. Let me do a bigger render. Since we are ending this, we can do a slightly bigger render. Yeah, I'll make it available. Hopefully, unless YouTube screws up somewhere. I'm not recording this again. Okay, but yeah, if this stream gets recorded, I will upload it. What are they going to do? Oh, bigger render. Hold on a second. Let's multiply this by 2. Multiply by 2 and multiply it by 2. Okay, and let's hit IPR. Sorry, not hit IPR. Out and render. Ooh, there we go. Yeah, and we can press N, and yeah. So you can see watercolor doggies. You can also see it slows down because it's trying to denoise this at the same time that it is trying to render. So, but it's pretty cool to look at because you actually see like the features appear with every pass that goes through. So it's kind of fun. It's sort of like seeing an image appear out of watercolors. But yeah, press N so it'll go faster. While this is rendering, so what I realized was I haven't used the denoiser too much, but it's not bad because the rule that applies to brute force rendering or Monte Carlo rendering, whatever it's called, is for the noise to become half for every single time, the number of samples have to go up by 4 times. So which means if you are going from 100% noise to 50% noise using 100 samples, to go from 50% noise to 25, you need 400 samples. And from 25 to 12.5, you need 1600 samples, which is why it takes so long to sort of clean up. So denoises are great for like the final 20%, which is very difficult to clean up. But yeah, like I think if I press N now, see this is pretty detailed. Like the shadow areas go for a toss, but it does manage to hold up enough detail. Again, I still need to figure out how to see render time in this. I have no idea where the render time is. Like it gives me this, I have no idea what's going on. Okay, let me just open up Photoshop for a second. I'll just show you an image. Let this render in the background. Okay, let me minimize this. So just to give you an idea of what you can do with So I did a classroom render, you know. So this is a 6-minute render. It's still pretty noisy, and this is again with just 10 cores. So it's sorry, not 10 cores, 10 threads, so 5 cores. And then this is the denoised version of it, which is like you do tend to lose detail. Actually, there are no textures on it, but yeah, you do tend to lose a fair bit of detail. So what you can do is, or what I realized you could do, is you can mix the two of them together. Okay, so the one thing you want to do is take this guy and sharpen it. So this is the Nick software toolset. So there you go. So you can just sharpen this up a little bit, you know, so it looks a little better, picks up a few more details. Okay, and then drag it on top of this and mix it down to something like 70%. See, so you get like from what you had to that. Like this is texture free, so it's good for demo purposes, but the rule still applies, right? Like if you have, say, an 80% clean image and then you get like the optics denoiser image and you just mix them together at around like 70% and it works. I've never used the optics denoiser for animation, so I have no idea how well that would work. But yeah, it shouldn't be too bad. There you go. Okay, so it's done rendering. That took, I guess, 5 minutes. If I press N, yeah, it wipes out details. But again, as I said, like if you mix this and that together, it should work. Now, final thing before we close is I can see the render time. No, that's like it just keeps going backwards. It doesn't show me the render time. Like if I open this up after 10 minutes, this will show me 15 minutes. It doesn't show me the render time. It shows me how long ago it was rendered, you know, which is kind of stupid. Okay, now, final thing before we close is if you try to save this, it's going to save it to an EXR file. Okay, that's not what you want. So what you do instead, if you want to save what is on the screen, right? Come into catalog and switch on burn in mapping on save. Okay, like you turn that on. And then if I save this, if I say export file, and we can come to K and Renderman, yeah. And so if I want to save this now as, let's say, PNG, and we can call this, say, dogs noisy. And then if I press N and get the, you know, get the denoised image, and I can do clean. Yeah, and then if I come to Photoshop, let me close that. Let's open up these two guys and we'll do the same thing. So yeah, let's just take this guy. We'll run the sharpener on this. This is a nice sharpener. It gives you like, it brings back a fair bit of stuff. Yeah, there you go. See, it's really nice. Like you can try to pick up structure a little bit too. Okay, not too much. It'll end up looking like watercolors then. Yeah, and let's do okay. Yeah, and then let's do a drag drop on this. And like it really wipes out details, right? Like if you look at the base here, that is smooth. That's like really, really smooth. Okay. But then again, like just take this and we can set this down to, 60%. And yeah, that looks okay. So what the noise does is it gives you back like an illusion of detail. Okay. Like especially in the shadow areas, like if you look at, like that area, it gets a little wiped out, but the noise helps you sort of bring it back. Okay. So it gets slightly cleaner, but you get some of the details back. So you can sort of, mix and match that way and get a decent image. Oh, where are we? Yeah, there we are. Yeah, so that is Nick software. Like, do a search for Nick software. Yeah, so that's basically it. So this is an intro to Renderman. Okay, like I might have missed out one topic, but the next, if I do another one, does anybody want me to do another one? Show of hands. Okay. If anyone is interested. Okay, so oh cool. Okay, 4 people. Can we go for 5? Okay. Apparently not. Hey, okay. Now that's the same person. That doesn't apply. I am not that stupid. Okay, perfect. Cool. We have 5 people. All right. So the next time I'll try to do. I won't put up a link. I'll tweet it the minute I go. The minute I go live, I'll put it up on Twitter. So hopefully you can just pick it up from there. But the next time I'll do materials. Okay, so it should give you a better idea. I have no idea, man. I have no idea how to do render buckets. It always does this, which was my issue, right? I think I'll put it up on YouTube as a question because I can't figure out how to do a final render. It always it's like once you set the final render, just stay away from Houdini because if you make a change, the render kickstarts again. It's very weird. I can't figure out how to do the final render. Okay. I haven't tried the Renderman Denoiser because I think that's an offline denoiser. So it only kicks in when I do like a offline render and then it does something. This denoiser is it's using optics. So optics is not great. You know, like so as far as AI optics is an AI denoiser, right? So basically it uses machine learning. And yeah, I'll keep a pretty image on the viewport. Okay. So optics is a machine learning based denoiser, and most of the other ones so whether it's Altus or the one that V-Ray has inbuilt or Arnold has an inbuilt one, those are all like standard denoisers. The only other machine learning based denoiser is the one from Octane, and the Octane denoiser is far superior to optics, like much better. It holds up way more detail than what optics does, and it also manages to, like, it can give you a much better result. It doesn't look like watercolors. Like optics just looks, you have to wait a long time for optics to start looking decent. The Octane denoiser works much better in that sense. But yeah, like I haven't tried the final denoiser. I have no idea. If I'll try it out. Again, I don't know where it is. Okay, like Renderman is still a little confusing, so I still get lost in it sometimes. But yeah, if I figure it out, I'll try and cover it next time. Anyways, the big issue right now is I don't even know how to see render time. So if anybody else figures out, just put it up on Twitter. I'll at least know how to see render time on this. Anyways, that's basically it. So next time I'll cover materials, and then I'll cover other speed comparison to Arnold. I'm not going to do comparisons. It's like starting a religious war. I'm not doing comparisons. It's just stupid. Okay. Everybody just jumps in and goes like, no, my render engine is better than yours. And like just everybody goes ape shit. I'm not doing that. It's just, yeah, it's just a stupid thing to try and do. I like Octane. So screw everything else. Okay. Yeah, so once again, that's essentially it. So next time I'll do materials. We'll also do attributes, and then I'll try to do like hair and volumes and stuff. Okay, so bye. Let me stop this thing.